I make so many scary story videos that I forget how much I enjoy reading the other kinds. I've got some good ones picked out for today, and while we're reading those, I'm going to be working in the cave under my base. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into it. The first story today is from r/relationships from user MolassesLazy4093. I'm 25 male, leaving my partner, 33 male, of 7 years tomorrow. Hi, I've only posted to Reddit a few times, and I figured this subreddit would be good for advice. I'm leaving my partner of 7 years, and while I'm relieved to finally cut ties with him, I feel an overwhelming sense of guilt for how I'm doing it. My partner, I'll call him Dave, and I have been together for around 7 years now. We met when I had just turned 18 and he was 27. When we first got together, everything moved excruciatingly fast. We'd met in January, started dating in February, and moved in together in April. We'd had an extremely rocky relationship. I wasn't mature and couldn't handle adult life very well. He wanted freedom and independence, but felt obligated to take care of me since he moved me an hour from my parents and convinced me to cut them off. There was a lot of him cheating, us arguing all the time, and me struggling to navigate a new city, new relationship, and completely different job market. Over the years, as I've grown mentally and developed more into my own person, the arguments grew less frequent, until I started making more money, had my own car, and gained friendships and bonds. He started to get more controlling, more comfortable flipping from overly sweet to hostile, more aware of who I was with, where I was going, and my location. An incident happened where he went too far, and I realized I needed out. I've been scared of him ever since. I have an apartment in a new city, friends to help me move, new job lined up, and everything covered. What's got me stuck is I feel guilty. I pick up my keys Saturday and have a place to stay after I break the news tomorrow, but he's being so kind and so sentimental, and part of me feels bad and like I'm taking the coward's way out. This has been my first actual relationship ever and my first time dealing with breaking up, so I'm not sure how to break the news. Everyone says he doesn't deserve the closure and I should just not say anything, but spending this much time with a person, I feel like they do. But I'm unsure if that's the years of feeling like I have to justify every action to him, or I don't know. My head is a little all over the place. I feel like that's not really like taking the coward's way out as much as it's taking the safe way out. Here's the update. I wanted to come back and thank each and every one of you and let you know I'm safe and sound. I just finished getting the last of everything I could from my old house today. I wish I could say it went smoothly, but it didn't. My ex had a feeling something was up and decided to take a sick day from work, so I couldn't leave as smooth as I planned. I woke up to him staring at me from my doorway and had a really uneasy feeling, so I just grabbed myself and my animals and left. I sent a text asking him to vacate the property so I could get my stuff, broke it off, and blocked him on everything I could think of. I had to get an escort to the property, and I made sure I had a group of people with me, and it seemed to freak him out enough to leave me and give me some very limited time to pack my things. I'm not concerned with him tracking me as he doesn't own a car and I'll be a few hours away, but I went over everything just in case. I have an unfortunately long car ride ahead of me, but I wanted to let everyone who helped me and remembered my posts know I'm safe. My pets are safe, and I got everything out. I really appreciate each person who gave me the strength and courage to end things on my terms and not give him the chance or opportunity to manipulate me by taking the civil route. You're all very good and kind people. I wish I had a longer update, but it's been a long day already and the worst is over. All that's left to do now is go be happy. Good for this person. Honestly, I feel like that was definitely the right thing to do. Instead of having some big scene, well, I mean, he still kind of had a big scene, but just get your stuff, leave, don't let yourself be manipulated, and yeah, good for you. You escaped an abusive situation. The next story is from r/relationships from user Lufjan Evans. Am I, 25 female, being mean/unreasonable to my coworker, 22 female, asking for rides? Hi all, I'll make this as short as I can. A younger coworker refuses to get her driver's license and a car due to anxiety. She's sort of on my way to work, after recently moving to the area, and asked me to drive her. I agreed, thinking it would be temporary, but she has no plans to get her license anytime soon. Every day for 3 weeks, she has made me late to work, which isn't a big deal in my office, but irks me nonetheless that my time doesn't appear valuable to her while I do her a favor. After telling her at least 3 times to be ready when I get there, there was no change, and then today she overslept and I was extra late to work, waiting for her to come out, and she never did. I left without her. I sent her a very calm text saying that I didn't feel comfortable driving her anymore and that she needs to find another ride. I also said no hard feelings. 2 hours later, when she wakes up, she sends me an apology and says she understands and knows she's been unreliable. I tell her that I'm glad she understands and that, again, there are no hard feelings for me. 2 more hours later, she gets to work and doesn't say a word to me all day. I take that as a sign that there are indeed some hard feelings, but oh well. I go home after work. I think it's over. I took tomorrow off and I'm ready for my 3-day weekend. A few hours later, I get a long text from her saying that she's so sorry and to please give her another chance because she didn't understand that I wanted her to be waiting when I got there. The bulk of message is about me not communicating with her and her having trouble picking up the signs. She offers to pay me, promises she'll do better, and then asks if I can at least give her a week to find another ride. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I definitely stopped giving this person rides. Here's where my question comes in. I gave her a flat no. I typed out a very long, irritated reply, then erased most of it and called my manager, who told me to have her call him. I texted her that I truly felt bad that she's left in a tough spot, but the fact of the matter is that it's not my responsibility to get her to work, and she needs to ask our manager for help. I guess now I just feel like a jerk. Like I should have taken her word that she'd get it together. But at the same time, I feel like I was right to stand up for myself and not do things that make me anxious or uncomfortable. It's hard sometimes to find the line between standing up for yourself and being a jerk. Especially because I'm typically the first person to let things go on in silence. Okay, how do we think the coworker reacted to this? I'm taking it that she plays this like huge victim card. And here's the update 3 weeks later. Hi everybody. My original post didn't get a ton of comments, but it got enough that I thought I'd share an update for anyone interested in the aftermath of my rideshare drama. It was about 3 weeks ago that I told my coworker I wouldn't be driving her anymore due to her constant tardiness and her ungratefulness. I felt bad about it at first because she seemed so young and clueless rather than manipulative. After I ended it, she started asking everyone in the office for rides, including people she had never spoken to who live in the complete opposite direction of her. She did manage to get to and from work every day for the last 3 weeks, basically by bouncing from car to car every couple days because nobody would commit to a long-term agreement. For the record, I didn't tell anyone why I wasn't driving her anymore apart from my manager and a coworker who asked me what happened after she received a message asking for a ride home. Well, Monday, she was finally fired due to poor performance, which we all knew was coming since she had been there almost 4 months and still hadn't been given a company cell phone. And the floodgates opened. Not only did she ask everyone for rides, she was just as thankless and demanding to the rest of the office as she was to me. The team went on a group outing last Friday, and she evidently got really bratty towards the woman driving her home because she was hosting a Halloween party that night and wanted to leave. Even though I kind of feel like a sucker for agreeing to drive her in the first place, I'm glad to know in the end that I definitely made the right judgment call. Gosh, some people can just be so entitled. Like, bro, you're lucky they didn't just say pay for an Uber. Tough luck. You don't want to drive? You're scared of driving? Gotta pay for an Uber. I don't know what to tell you. The next one today is from Am I the Asshole? From user Brenton the. Am I the asshole for letting my boyfriend date his ex? What? No. So me, 31 male, and my boyfriend, 24 male, have been together for about 8 months. He had told me that he wants to be in a polyamorous relationship. I let them know that I don't have any interest in being poly. He kept bringing up the topic and wanting to open up the relationship. Finally, about 3 months ago, I said I would try it. I said as long as there was communication and he let me know ahead of time that we can try it. My only thing was that I had Mondays and Tuesdays off, so those are our days. Fast forward a couple weeks, and I find out he has a couple of hangouts planned. And I asked about details of the hangout, and it was this guy we will call Alec, and he was going to take him out to breakfast and pay for everything. I told him that was a date. My boyfriend told me no it wasn't and that we were just friends. He said that this was an old friend and they were going to catch up. Now, here comes the kicker. This was planned on a Monday. I'm off on Monday. I let him know this, and he said he forgot, and he thought I was going to be sleeping. Background, I work overnight, and I get off at 7:30 a.m. on Monday. I stay up all day Monday and go to bed at a normal time Monday night. And this is every Monday. I let it go and told him to enjoy his day. A couple weeks later was my birthday. I was super excited because one of my love languages is gifts. I love giving gifts and I love receiving gifts, and he knows this. I know this kind of sounds shallow, but even if it's homemade and doesn't cost money, I'll love it regardless. My birthday fell on a Monday. I get off work and find out he has plans to meet up with another guy. I thought maybe this was a cover-up so he can get me a gift. I was wrong. He admitted that to me later and that he forgot until my roommate texted him letting him know it was my birthday and if I was going to do something. Mind you, this was already about 1 p.m. that he realized it was my birthday. He ran out and got a store-bought cake and some flowers. In my mind, this was strike two, but I let it slide. I was honestly very hurt. We had a big argument, and I thought we had come to another understanding that Mondays and Tuesdays are for us. A couple weeks after that was Valentine's Day, on a Saturday. I was really excited, and I planned out a whole thing. I had a letter for each hour planned where he would open it and find a love message from me. There were some that had gift cards attached to them, DoorDash, Steam, PlayStation Store, etc. His love language is words of affirmation. Some of the letters were words of affirmation. I was super excited. The day before, he lets me know he has a hangout with another guy planned. I was really hurt, to be honest. I let him know this, and he said he would be back by the time I was up from sleeping. Background, on my work week, I get home around 8 a.m. and go to bed until 12:30, and then I take another nap around 6 to 10. I said okay and waited for him. He didn't end up coming home until 4 p.m. I decided to sacrifice my sleep and stay up to have a Valentine's Day with my boyfriend. In the next month, I found out he had reached out to 2 more of his exes. He wanted to go on a weekend trip with one of them, and the other one he was talking over Discord. Mind you, the one he was talking to over Discord broke his heart, and he's still in love with him. The one over Discord does not have feelings for him whatsoever. The one that he wanted to go on a weekend trip with, we call Eric. He stated that Eric was going to order an Uber for him to his house, and he'll Uber him back at the end of the weekend trip. Mind you, the Uber is about $110 one way. I had asked to meet with Eric just to feel him out. We had another argument of where I let him know. I wasn't comfortable with Polly yet. He agreed to set up a dinner so we could meet. He asked me to drive him to Eric's house to see if that would calm me down. I said yes, that would most likely calm me down, and we can have that dinner with Eric. Pass forward to the day of, and we get in the car to drive to Eric's house, and he drops on me that we will just do a call and not a dinner. And then we do a phone call, and Eric and him gang up on me and start to ask me questions of why I need to meet his dates. I let him know that I wasn't comfortable, and it would make me feel more comfortable in theory. Eric stated that he has a husband and that I should not put myself through meeting these guys. This didn't sit well with me, and I got super quiet on the phone. I dropped him off to his weekend and left. Eric did pay for gas, which was nice. In the next month, he planned out 2 more dates with Alec, and they were all on Monday. He used that same excuse of forgetting. A couple weeks ago, he came back from his date, and he was wearing all new clothes and jewelry and showing off what his date got him. I felt very uncomfortable, and I told him I'm not comfortable with Polly anymore. I honestly tried, and it's not for me. My boyfriend has stated that I'm overreacting and I'm being unfair. Am I the asshole for this? My boy, hear me out. You do not have a boyfriend. The only reason he introduced the idea of having a polyamorous relationship is so he could cheat and not have to hide it. Anyways, let's read the update on this. It's from 9 days ago, which was about 3 weeks later. Update. So I broke up with him and decided to continue with my move to Oregon. We were supposed to move together with a roommate of ours, but I told my now ex he couldn't go. I called the leasing office and told them I want to take him off. They said I could take him off when I pick up the lease. Some backstory on what I found when I snooped. My ex was texting his friends and letting them know that he didn't love me, but he was using me to get to Oregon. He said he was just choosing to love me, but he didn't see a long-term relationship with me. My ex got on a train and went to downtown LA. When my roommate dropped him at the train station, I noticed that the times for the downtown LA train were later in the evening. There was a train for Oregon arriving first. I asked my roommate what train he was getting in, and he said the one to LA, and that he saw him get on that train. I said okay. A couple days later, I made the 18-hour drive to Oregon with all my pets and stuff. I went to pick up the keys, and the leasing office said that my roommate already picked up the keys. I let them know that was impossible since we just got here from California. They let me know it was Angel. I saw red. I was so mad and hurt. I went to my roommate and asked if he knew. He said, "Oh, so he is here. He wasn't supposed to be here yet." I was so mad I walked away. I called some friends and asked for advice as well. I called my roommate and asked him if he knew. He came out and said he had lied and knew that my ex was coming to Oregon. Now I feel trapped in my own home, and what was supposed to be a happy occasion turned into a stressful one. My ex even ate the whole gift basket that was there to welcome us to our new apartment. I'm still trying to figure out what to do because I don't feel comfortable with him here. If anyone has any suggestions, I would love to hear. Yikes, that is a tough one. Yeah, honestly, at this point, I'd just call the leasing office and tell them to take me off that thing ASAP. Honestly, it's better to sleep in your car than sleep close to a toxic ex. The next one's from r/amitheasshole from user secretvoices. Am I the asshole for saying I would stay at my mom's if I had to share a room with babies? I'm 16 female. My parents split up before I was born. Custody is, I live with my dad most of the time and my mom every other weekend. Plus random staying with her if I want. Recently, my dad got engaged to Hannah, and she and her kids are moving in. Hannah's kids' ages are 9, 7, and 3 at 2 years old. She is widowed, so they live full-time with her. This made room arrangements a bit awkward, since there's only 3 kids' bedrooms to go around. Dad and Hannah talked it over last night, without consulting anybody, and Hannah came over this morning to announce with my dad what they decided. Apparently, they want 9 and 7 to each have their own rooms, and me to share with the triplets because my room is significantly bigger than the others, and I don't stay there full time. I said their plan was stupid. They wanted me to share with 3 toddlers. They said they didn't want me to move, but it was the biggest room, so other people should share. I said I didn't care if I switched rooms, because the more logical move would have been the triplets in the big room, 7 and 9 share, and I get my own. I said I'd take the smallest one, until I move out. They said it would be more work to move my things to another room, and their idea was more practical. Then I asked why I was so pressed since I don't even live there full time. I said not staying in the room 4 days a month was a sorry excuse to land me with a bunch of toddlers, and if they seriously planned on doing it to me, I'd make the custody arrangement change, and I'd stay with mom for the most part. I know she doesn't mind, because both of them remind me I could stay with her whenever I wanted. This made Hannah cry because she just wants her family to blend together nicely, and apparently I was ruining her plans. This made Dad mad at me, and I'm not allowed to talk to Hannah until she forgives me. I didn't know this meant so much to them, but I'm still saying I'll stay with Mom longer if I have to share with toddlers, but my dad made me feel a bit guilty, so am I the asshole? No, you're not the asshole. I'm thinking this lady might just not want you in the picture, to be honest. Like, I'm kind of calling BS on how she just wanted the family to blend together and everything to be sunshine, lollipops, and rainbows. Like, no. It's not sounding how it sounded. Here's an update. I'm at my mom's house at least for the weekend while the adults try to work things out. But my mom said I was welcome to live with her full time, and if I really wanted, we could change the custody agreement. Also, thank you for all the replies. I really wasn't expecting this to blow up as much as it did. Update 2. Because somehow I'm still getting responses to this, everyone talked, but Dad and Hannah are staying with their decision, and I've decided to move to my mom's long term. We're going to switch the custody around, so I'll only see my dad every other weekend, and I'm just going to sleep on the couch when I'm there. Obviously nothing is set yet, but that's what we're going to do, and thanks to everyone for being so nice. Update 1 year later. I still get messages here. I just found this account again, so I thought I'd update whoever sees this. I still live with my mom, and I love it here. Hannah openly dislikes me, so I don't even stay for weekends anymore at my dad's house. We call sometimes, but it's what it is, I guess. Hannah's kids are fine, but I only see them on holidays. Also, Hannah's pregnant again, and 7 and 9, now 8 and 10, are going to share a room. So I guess it wasn't too much work in the first place. She just hated me, lol. Yeah, she just hated you. It sucks having the distance relationship with your dad, but, he kind of made his choice. But anyways, if you like living at your mom's, sounds like it was a positive thing overall. The next story is from r/relationships from user Dealing with a Crazy. Me, 37 male, trying to deal with 24 female potential stalker. So I have what my buddies describe as a crazy dream. I have this really hot new hire that seems to be into me, which would normally be great, but she's also super young and potentially a stalker. Here's the deal. We work in the same building, but not on the same project or anything. We cross paths in the cafeteria and in the garage, but outside of that, don't really interact on a daily thing. Our first meeting was back in April at an office happy hour thing. It seemed to be a pleasant conversation, and we hit it off for a few hours and then went our separate ways. We would cross paths a few times in the hall or the company cafeteria, but would just smile or stop and make small talk. Then, about 2 weeks ago, I was sitting having lunch outside by myself, and she came and joined me out of the blue. We laughed and joked and then finished up, and I went back to work. When I came out that night to leave for work, she was sitting on my motorcycle waiting for me. She asked if I would take her for a ride around the block, but I explained to her that I only had one helmet, and riding in our city without one could get us a ticket. I know, weak excuse, and my buddies gave me flack for it, but honestly, I'm weird about safety when I ride. I told her maybe another time, then went home. 2 days later, I'm at my gym finishing up, and I get a tap on my shoulder. It's the intern. We talked, and she told me she just joined, to which I thought nothing about, and then I went on my way. Now, I'm not gonna lie. I was thinking of maybe asking her out, but I really didn't want to screw around with my job and career just over a hot girl who I may or may not have anything in common with. I talked it over with my friends, and well, many feel the same way, with a few that live for the moment, and others that put more thought into actions. The next day, last week, she joins me for lunch again. We get to talking some more, and she told me she wasn't sure about joining a gym, but after talking to a few people and seeing that I worked out there, she decided to give it a shot. Fast forward to last night, where I get a strange knock on my door. I open it up, and who is there? You guessed it, the intern girl. She said she was in the neighborhood and wanted to know if I wanted to go out for dinner and some beers. Now, I'm a bit creeped out and ask her how she knows where I live, to which she states she peeked at my employee file. She works in HR as an intern. I tell her this is not acceptable and ask her to leave because I already have plans, to which she apologizes and leaves. Okay, so the gym thing? Borderline stalker. Like, you can't really call that person a stalker yet. But pulling your address from your HR file and showing up to your house because they're quote-unquote in the neighborhood, yeah, that's full-blown stalker territory. Now, I know she's young, so some of this might be impetuous mistakes, but I'm honestly a little freaked out by this. I don't know if I should report this to HR or let this go. I mean, I don't think I've done anything to lead her on. I haven't asked her out, slept with her, or even done anything outside of have lunch with her. I'm not going to try to get her fired, nor ruin my career in any way. One of my friends seems to think if I just went out with her, she would calm down. but I don't think I want to encourage the behavior and end up with a dead animal nailed to my door or something. I'm not sure if I go to HR and say, hey, your intern is looking into my personal file and showing up where I work out and at my home, if they would believe it. She also seems genuinely nice and sincere in conversation, so I don't want to ruin her life if it was just a stupid mistake we make as a kid type thing. I also don't want to assume that because of this she's interested in me, then try to have a talk with her and have her come across as if I'm at fault here. What's the best way for me to protect myself and proceed from here? Am I overreacting or making a big deal out of nothing? Okay, here's an update 3 days later. So, taking a few of your advices, I reached out to the head of my department and shot an email over the weekend explaining my situation and my talk with the HR director. After that, I went about my weekend and put it out of my mind. With that said, there were a few times when my phone would go off, I would get a bit nervous that I would get a message or a call from her, but that subsided. In fact, when I walked through the doors this morning, I really had started feeling better about the whole situation, like everything was back to normal. An hour had passed, then all of a sudden my department had pulled me into his office and sat me down. He and I go way back to when I first started working here, so he told me that he had talked to HR and that he was not allowed to discuss anything with me until they had spoken to me first. He then told me to consider my options before I signed any paperwork, then walked me up to HR. Now, I'm a grown man, but I have to admit that the walk and elevator ride up to HR was the most uncomfortable silence and nerve-wracking experience I had experienced in a while. It was like being marched to the principal's office and you weren't sure why. My stomach was in knots and thoughts of getting a lawyer or finding a new job started jumping into my head. By the time I had sat down in the HR director's office, I felt like I was going to jump out of my skin. The HR director sat me down and went over what I had reported on Friday before leaving for the day. She kept saying that she wanted to make sure I wasn't leaving out any detail or if I had any video or audio proof of what I claimed. At this point, I felt like I was on trial for something, so I started asking why I would have any of that or even be prepared to document my life in such a way when, up till her showing up to my house, I had never put any thought about her being anything other than friendly. She then told me they found that my records had been reviewed as well as others, but I was the only one that had come forwards with anything. As many of you can imagine, I was confused at what was going on and a bit scared, so I asked her flat out what's going on. She told me that as of today, the intern had been fired, and if I wanted to pursue legal matters against her, restraining orders, breach of privacy, etc., the company would provide me full support and back me up legally with lawyers. I'm also at this time getting 2 years free of credit monitoring and insurance. The company would not bring up legal recourse against the intern unless I wanted to. There was mentions of offers for counseling and such, but I let them know I wouldn't be needing it as nothing outside of her showing up happened. They let me know I have 48 hours to take all the paperwork to my lawyers and think about what I would like to do. But as of right now, I don't think I have anything to worry about. I talked to my director after the meeting and he told me that the company at this time is afraid I'll sue, which he doesn't recommend, but I don't have to worry about my job. I told him I wouldn't be pressing charges against her as she had already lost her job and well, I feel like that would be taking it too far. He had a different feeling about it, but also told me that he might have handled the situation differently if he wasn't married and it had happened to him. Overall, I feel relieved and wanted to thank everyone that had given the advice before. I have no clue how on earth this guy is feeling relieved. Correct me if I'm wrong or if you guys think something different, but I feel like this is the point where stalkers get extra stalkery. Like, oh, you made me lose my job? I'll show you. Anyways, there's one final update, so let's go ahead and read it. 1 day after first update. One final post. I don't see this warranting another update post, so... Lawyers reviewed and drafted up a response statement. I signed 3 out of all the packets and submitted the response statement within the 4th, 5th. It's really not a packet, just a sheet of paper. I know many of you say report or press charges, but here's the thing. According to my lawyer, that kinda makes her unemployable. I'm not looking to ruin her life, but restraining orders and charges pressed makes her really unemployable. I'm not saying this for any other reason as to be a simple human being. The letter I submitted states that I am taking this chance and reserve the rights to press charges, restraining orders, for a later date if further contact peruse. As for the identity theft and such, I plan to take full advantage of it and have requested a request of proof that there was a breach to my information through the HR department. This, I am told, is only to be used if I do have my identity stolen, so that I can assist with stopping it, and from talking to HR, this isn't a problem. I know I need to protect myself, and I realize that this could be potentially dangerous, even more so than the motorcycle riding, snowboarding, or whatever other stupid choices in my life. However, I don't feel the need to push the envelope and ruin another human's life. She's already unemployed and may have a hard time finding another job in the field. I don't wish to compound that in such a way as to make her unemployable. I also wanted to thank each and every one of you that took time out of your day to read this, and a special thank you to those of you that gave such great advice. Guys, I know I said this wasn't a scary story video, and the OP might not even think it's scary, but dude, you got a stalker. The next one's from Am I the Asshole from previous double 6231. Am I the asshole for swapping rooms with my roommate while he was away? I, 19 male, have been living with my roommate George, 20 male, for about 6 months. We've been decent friends for a year or so, but it's definitely been rocky since moving in together. For context, we go to different unis, and our schedules are completely different, so our breaks don't really align. A few weeks ago, we got in a bit of a fight. He wanted to have a bunch of his friends over and have a house party, but I had an exam the next day and needed a bit of quiet. He was pretty pissed at me, and I didn't really see him before I went home for my mid-semester break. While I was at home, the airline I would have been flying returned with canceled some flights, problems with the gas shortage, and I ended up having to come back a day early. When I got back to the apartment, it stunk like beer and weed. The floor was a mess and dishes were piled up, and I was a bit frustrated with the mess, but also figured George thought I'd be back the next day. I didn't want to start another fight, given we'd left on sorta bad terms. That was until I opened the door into my room and saw 3 of George's friends sleeping in my room, 2 on the floor and 1 on my bed. They seemed to have made themselves pretty comfortable. My stuff was still all there, but moved out of place. There were empty cans and bottles everywhere, alcohol and spew stains on the carpet, and the room reeked. I was livid and yelled at them to get out. This must have woken George up. He came out of his room looking pretty surprised. I demanded he cleaned everything up and went out for a few hours for fresh air. When I got back, he wasn't there. He cleaned up a bit, the beer bottles were in the bin and dishes were done, etc., but my room still smelled and was far from what it was before. I could see he had made an attempt on the vomit and alcohol stains, but it seemed pretty half-assed. The smell made me pretty nauseous, so I ended up sleeping on the couch. It was also gross, but not quite as bad, for the next few nights. Eventually, it mostly aired itself out, but I was still pretty disgusted by some of the stains and lingering scents. George never apologized for this, and we just didn't talk much after the whole incident. I was pretty bummed. We were pretty good friends, and I would have been open to working through this to make the rest of our lease tolerable, but not without him owning up and apologizing. 2 days ago, he left for his break, and I've had the apartment to myself. I was tidying my room and found a ton of ants in my wardrobe, leading to some crumbs they must have left. I try not to eat in my room and definitely wouldn't have in my wardrobe. This was pretty much the final straw for me. The lease has another 6 months on it, so I couldn't move out, and decided that if George thought that was an okay way to leave someone's space, he could have it. It took me the whole day, but I ended up swapping out all our furniture. I set his clothes up in the wardrobe with the ants, remade his bed, and tried to recreate his room exactly. His room is a bit bigger than mine, with an in-suite and a deck, but we both split rent evenly. He found the apartment, so claimed the better room first. There's barely any stains or smells in his room, and even if there were, the deck gives me a bit of a safe haven. Not sure why they decided my room was the place to dump everything. At the time, I thought this was a fair enough response, but he's coming back tomorrow and I'm rethinking it. I still have time to fix it. Am I the asshole? Update 1. Thank you for advice, everyone. I really appreciate thoughts, opinions, etc. Although I acknowledge and understand everyone saying I should change it back, the little time I have had in my new room has been too good to let go of. I feel pretty justified by the support I received and don't feel like being the bigger person at this moment. I'll talk to him when he gets back so he doesn't just walk into the wrong room, and hopefully explain my position. To those asking about bolts, I'll get a lock, but it's tricky. The apartment rules are pretty strict, but I'll look into it. I'll update everyone after it goes down. Thanks again for support and advice. You know, I get that he messed up and completely violated your space and didn't apologize for it, but like, I don't know, over a couple ants, if I would, do that. Not that I want ants in my wardrobe or anything, and I'm sure none of you do either, but they have spray for that. But at the same time, his roommate did also violate his space, so I don't know. Does two wrongs make a right in this situation? Anyways, here is the final update. I want to start off by saying thank you so much for everyone's support and advice. Really appreciate it. I did decide to keep the room switched. I also looked at the lease agreement and was able to install the lock on my new room. When he got back, I sat him down in the living room and explained what I'd done. I tried to explain why I was so frustrated and how difficult it had been living in my new room, but he didn't let me finish and ran over to look at his, now my room. When he saw that everything was true, he started yelling at me. He called me psycho and that I had totally disrespected him. I tried to stay calm, but ended up yelling back at him. I told him that his actions were what had led me to do this, and that if he had ever wanted to switch back, he needs to pay to professionally clean my old room and get rid of the bugs. He told me it wasn't that bad, and I had way overreacted. Luckily, the fight didn't get physical, but he did get very close at times. We definitely didn't work it out, but he did seem to have somewhat accepted the new circumstances. Turns out he had not accepted it at all. The next morning, I woke up to the landlord knocking at the front door. George had told the landlord that while he was away, I'd trashed my room and swapped with him. The landlord was furious about the ants and the stains in the carpet. I tried to explain what had actually happened, including that George had been smoking weed in the apartment, which is illegal here, and the landlord did listen, but with no proof of when the apartment got trashed or who was telling the truth, said we'd both be liable. He said this was our first warning, and he's giving us a week to clean it perfectly, or we'd be kicked out and lose our bond. After the landlord left, George and I got right back into it. I demanded he pay to clean it up, but he completely refused. He said that he had done more than enough to try and clean it and wouldn't consider paying for anything while I still had his room. I told him that he was an idiot for bringing the landlord into the situation, but apparently he's got another place to crash and didn't care. Knowing he had a different place, I realized I didn't have much of a leg to stand on. My ego wouldn't let me give up the room, let alone pay for everything to get cleaned up, so I retreated to my room and locked the door to think things over. I decided to text one of my friends to see if I could stay at theirs for a bit, just in case, and they said it would be fine. I knew George was going out later that night with his friends and decided I would start moving some of my things over to my friend's place. George ended up sleeping somewhere else and didn't come home until late the next day, giving me enough time to get all my stuff out. I'd basically moved out by the time he got home, at which point he sent me a text telling me not to come back and that he wouldn't be getting anything cleaned. I sent a screenshot of it to the landlord, just letting them know that we would certainly be sacrificing the bond and our lease. I made sure to apologize to the landlord, not that it made much of a difference, but he seemed to appreciate it a bit. I'm now apartment hunting again and have blocked all contact with George. I'm typing this from the couch of my friend's place where I'll probably be for the next few weeks. Thanks again for the support. I guess I've learned not to move in with my friends and will be leasing by myself next time. Not sure whether I regret what I did or not. I still feel it was justified, but almost certainly not worth all the fallout. So, alright, what I would have done in this situation. I don't think I would have gone and moved all this stuff because two wrongs I don't think made a right in this situation. I would have sat down with him when he got back and been like, yo, there's bugs in my room, all from, whenever your friends were here and they partied and left food under my bed or in my wardrobe. You either need to have it professionally cleaned or we need to swap rooms. That's the deal. And then handle it accordingly from there. But anyways, moral of the story, don't have shitty roommates. Anyways, that's all the Minecraft and Reddit stories I have for you today. If you guys like the non-scary stories, please let me know down in the comments below and I'll just start making more of them. I do definitely enjoy reading these stories, so I wouldn't be opposed. Huge shout out to my channel members. If you guys do want to further support the channel, that link's going to be down in the description. Although it is not ever required, completely your choice. Don't feel like you need to do this. If you liked today's video, don't forget to drop a like and subscribe. And if you didn't, you might like tomorrow's video. I upload every single day. Thanks for watching. Peace.